Now we're ready to do the next part of assignment C, which is we're ready to do roofs here. So that you can tell if you look through this handout that now we're on page 3. This was a page that I created in Revit, so it's got the border and it's a little prettier. So the first thing we want to do is learn how to create a simple hipped roof. Now I'm going to veer off the track a little bit to show you what would happen if you wanted a gabled roof instead of a hipped roof. But our assignment is just to do a hipped roof. Now I do have an extra credit in here to say let's put a little gabled roof on the front porch right there. So if you want to do any extra credit, that'll give you a couple points here and there. And also if you're eating this up and you're doing well and you got time, try it because you can learn more and more the more time you have. So we want to go to a roof plan view. So the first thing we want to do, I've got this roof existing architectural plan here. When I call it up, what happens? I don't see anything. Well, it's the view range, exactly. I'm not looking deep enough. And if I look in the view properties here, it says what level. It's the level roof. So let's go to an elevation and find out how high that level is. If I go to the south elevation, I put a roof level way up in the sky because I didn't want to have it be plate height level. Otherwise, I might have an attic floor that's cut through the sloping roof. It would be like a garrison ceiling in the attic, and so then I want another roof plan above that. So I've created a level that's floating up high enough that it won't be slicing off any of our pitched roof. Problem with that is when you make a view up there, like I did for you, I'm not looking deep enough to see the house because I'm only looking down to the plate height and there's nothing below. If I go, or actually I'm only looking to the roof level. So what is it that we do to get to the view range? We scroll down in the properties, view range edit. And so now we could just say that we want to go unlimited, but then we'd be seeing footings down there. So instead I'm going to say let's go down to the first floor. That way if you add a porch roof or whatever in between, you'll see it in this roof plan. So now we're looking down from above and we don't have a lid on this house. So now we're ready to create a roof. So if we go to the handout, we kick into sketch mode when we say roof here. Now I'm going to drag that over to my other window.
Hey, on your view range, click on the bottom, first floor.
Bottom and the view depth, I've lowered both of them. Normally I just say whatever I do to the bottom I do here as well. I just match them. Because otherwise, well, the view depth will show things that are down there. The view range will cut things, or maybe I have it backwards, but if, let's say you have an attic plan and you're slicing off the sloping roof and maybe one of the edges of the roof goes all the way down to the first floor, another one's up at the second floor, you can clip that view so that it's slicing the slope and it shows a line where you're slicing. So one of those settings is where it slices, that's probably the view depth. And the other one is how deep you're looking so that you either see all the way down to the slice or you don't quite see that far. So it's a little bit confusing. I just set them to be the same because I haven't run into many situations where it needs to be different.
How did you get it to do that?
I just did edit view range and I just set them both to first floor, first floor.
Okay, you were in plan view.
In the roof plan view. And you look in your view properties over here on the left, and I scroll down.
I'm sorry.
You find it?
No, I just shut out of my thingy by it.
Oh, no.
Did you add the up and down cut line, or does that show up when your cut, your section cut, north south? Did that show up, or did you add that?
It showed up because my section was cut. But it didn't show up until I lowered my view range down to the first floor.
You were in roof existing?
Yeah. So you're not seeing the sections?
One, but not the other.
Okay.
I don't see that. I see the thing, but I don't see the house.
The thing, meaning the reference plane? Yeah, so that's where I went into edit view. And the reason your section isn't showing up maybe is because the height at scale is coarser than is not set to a small enough scale. Your roof plan is probably 3/16 scale. And so if you go to another plan, like your level 1 existing plan, it might be at a quarter. So if you find the section and change it so this height it scales course to the end. But for now, let's not worry about that. Let's move on so we can get this thing built, and then if we have time we can review. I don't like seeing these elevation markers, so I'm going to select one of them. Rather than going to VG and looking for elevations, I like this little shortcut where you pick one and you type VH. And if you're not a shortcut person, but you're a right-click person, you can right-click on it and say Hide in View Category, and that hides all elevations. Now I'm ready to put on my roof. So I go to Home, Roof, and there's actually two choices under roof. There's several. There's roof by footprint, roof by extrusion, and then there's soffits, fascias, gutters, which we'll do later. And roof by face is for massing. We won't get into that in this class. So I want to do a roof by footprint. In other words, we're drawing it in plan, our roof. So you click that. Very much the same as floors. We're in sketch mode. The only difference is there's a few extra quirks with a roof because you can have an overhang and you can have a slope. And so we need to deal with all those things. But what are we in? We're in pick walls mode, right? In sketch. Except it says overhang 1'0". Now we want our overhang to be 2'4". So on the options bar, you can just come in here and change that to 2'4" and hit enter. Now I'm ready to start picking walls. So if I pick this west wall, notice how it puts a little dotted line either on the inside or the outside. Well, we want the overhang to go out. And we also don't want to extend the measurement of this roof to the core of the wall. So that means if I go out there, it's 2'4" from the outside face of the wall, whether it's core or sheathing or whatever, it's going to go from the outside finished face 2'4", which is how we want it to measure. So I'm going to click that. Now, I've done one wall. I'm going to do a second one. Now, notice how this has a little bit more to it. Notice how the magenta lines have this little triangle, and that shows that that's going to define slope. Now, this is a little weird. If it's a flat roof, none of your edges define slope because it's flat. If it's a pitched roof, but it's a hip versus a gable, a hip roof, it slopes in all directions up to a peak or a ridge or a series of ridges. So in this case, because we want to, and it doesn't work out to a pyramid because it's not square, but if it was square, it would come to a point if they're all the same slope. So we say each of these four edges here is going to start, it's going to define slope. Notice how that's checked there? So that means if I pick another wall, it's going to define slope, and it's going to have that triangle. And notice how this one says 9/12. That's our... Right. And so if it was gabled so that you see the peak from the front view, this line would not define slope. That one would not, but the two side ones would because they start... It's kind of hard to describe, but defining slope means I'm at the bottom edge of a slope, those edges. So I want to change the slope because in the handout it says I want a 7/12 pitch, not in a 9/12 pitch. So I can, if I escape, I'm out of the pick walls and now I'm ready to pick one of those lines. And I can pick on it and just click on the 9/12 and change it to 7 and hit enter. It says, oh, he means 7/12. So that's your tangent, your rise over run for the slope, and that's how carpenters typically measure it. If I pick this one, it's a 9/12 also, so I want to change it to 7. Now I'm getting ready to pick another wall, so I go pick walls, and now I can change it. Now it's assuming the next one's going to be 7/12.
I hit escape, and then what did you do?
On one of those lines that you created, and make sure it says 7/12. Just click on that whole little number and just type 7, and it converts it to 7 inches over 12 inches.
Did you say that the next two that you added were automatically put into 7?
Well, I thought they would, but they're not.
Okay.
So it's better to check. But if you want them all the same, which is typically what you're going to want, and there might be times when you want the two ends to be steeper than the front and back.
How did you get it to start up again? Did you go back to the walls?
Go back to pick walls again, yeah. So even though we're in sketch mode,
So I can't select it.
what's that?
It's grayed out, so I can't select
So just don't double click on one of the tabs, because that's not gonna happen.
But I can't.
Well, you gotta go back to the green tab, and do straight. There you go. So now let's put a draw table over here and see what walls are doing. All right, so I've got the main part of my roof. Now I give you two options on this. I can say, well, let's pretend they built the whole T-shaped roof at once, which we know is not the case. But that's the basic assignment. So for that, we're going to do just like we did at the second floor. Remember how we picked more walls back here? And I can't get it to go the right direction. If I tab, that didn't do it. So I'm just going to pick it and then flip it. Then I can pick the last two. Now, just like I did on the second floor, I don't want to pick the walls of the notch because the roof is just going to carry right on past that notch. Because the notch really stops at the top of the first floor space. So now I'm ready to, what do? I split this, right? So I'm going to do the little split and just snip it with the scissors. Then I'm going to trim it. Now, I'll show you a shortcut. If you get tired of picking each line and changing it to 7, just escape out of all the lines and scroll down in your properties here. And notice how the slope is blank because it's smart enough to know you got some 9s and some 7s mixed together. But if you fill in this blank and say, I want all of them to be 7, then it'll fix all the edges no matter how many of them you got because it's a hipped roof. So I'm going to just